Gotta put the keys down so they're not, jangling everywhere. Oh, I didn't start my audio. Boom, baby. Now we're in business, as the kids would say. Maybe I should consult with some kids to find out what it is that they say these days. Okay. How are we doing with the light? Are we doing okay? It's such a nice day today. Blue skies, partly cloudy, mostly sunny. Cheers to this week. I love mate so much. Oh my gosh. This is going to be a good one. I can feel it in my bones. We're doing good things with this podcast, I think. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Poor Timing. Start over. Take 2. Hello and welcome to another episode of Education 101. I am your host, Kate. Thank you for listening. It means a lot. A lot of you have messaged me since the last episode and told me a little bit about who you are and this whole coming out experience and not wanting to feel like you're somebody entirely new. And I'm glad you know now that that's the case. You don't have to be a completely different person just because you come out. Okay? Huge thank you to my Patreon subscribers for making this whole podcast possible. Really appreciate the support. If you are looking for a way to support me, Patreon is the way to go. It's a subscription based. We got a $5 tier and a $10 and a $25. It's whatever you want. But if you're wondering how you can support me, help so we can keep making these podcast episodes, that is the way to do it. So take a look at that. You get a bunch of little extras and fun things that I don't post anywhere else. So it's like an exclusive, it's like a super exclusive group of people. Just kidding. I mean, kind of, but they're all really cool. So join us over there on the Patreon or check out the merch website, babygaymerch.com. You can get yourself a t-shirt, hat. Baby gay hats are live, so that's kind of fun. Today's episode, one of my previous episodes, I talked about how coming out happens in layers. That you come out to yourself first, and then maybe you come out to friends and family, or maybe you come out to yourself, and then you come out to somebody that you're like crushing on, But then maybe you come out to your family, friends, strangers, whatever. It happens. It's like a ripple effect almost. Not really. I take that completely back. It's not a ripple effect at all because, well, actually maybe it is. Oh my gosh, I don't even know. It's like dominoes. No, it's not like dominoes either. It happens in layers. Coming out happens in layers. So I wanted to touch a little bit this episode on coming out to my family. And how that kind of went down and some of the feelings that I had. And again, all of this is just from my memory. I was trying to go back through journals again and going through Instagram messages that I had with people and trying to get a timeline going so I can be a little bit more accurate in my storytelling. But alas, there was no evidence of me coming out to my family and being gay and excuse me, and all of that. So let me sip some mate here before we dive in to the storytelling. Oh, I love mate so much. Oh man, where to even begin? Coming out to my family. The first people that knew that I was gay, the first people that I really came out to were my then girlfriend, Kenna. She actually messaged me. She said she listened to one of the episodes and said that I could use her name, which was very nice of her. So Kenna was my first girlfriend. She was probably the first person, one of the first people to know. The other person was a therapist that I was working with at the time. She wasn't my therapist. She was a therapist that worked at the same residential treatment center that I was working at. And we had a lot of conversations. She was a very involved human being with my coming out to myself, especially. We talked a lot about, we have had similar religious backgrounds. She grew up LDS Mormon. I don't know that she's super involved now, but we talked a lot about being gay and in the church, and how my relationship with God was really important. And I felt like I had to give that up if I was gay, or I felt like I was betraying, God, because I was living this sinful life or feeling these sinful things. And she helped me a lot to process a lot of those things. She asked a lot of really great questions that really got me thinking about a lot of things. She was one of the first people that knew that I was a homosexual. And then it was Kenna. Kenna was the next person that I told, because Kenna was the person that I was attracted to. And we started dating, I believe, April, May, June of 2019 was the time frame, I believe. And I think we were together. We had been together for 2 months, maybe 3 months. We were working together for a long time. Like I said, we started training December. We started training at this treatment center December of 2018, and then we had this whole friendship, a really, really incredible friendship, until I told her that I was attracted to her. And then we spent so much time together. We spent all of our time together. It was either just like watching TV or going out to get food or going to the movies or whatever. And then we started dating, right? I mean, that's how that happened. We spent all of our time together and realized we didn't really want to spend time with anybody else. And then we were dating. Just like that. The same way that it happens with a heterosexual couple. You start spending time with the person, and then you realize that you really like this person and you don't want to see anybody else. And then boom, all of a sudden you're in a relationship. That's how that happened. And we were dating about 2 months. And as I said in one of my previous podcast episodes, she was so patient and respectful of the fact that I was coming out and the fact that I came from a really religious background. She never pressured me into telling anybody that we were dating. She never tried to push me into like posting photos of us together on social media or anything like that, which I was really grateful for. She was very patient, very kind, very understanding of my situation. We had been dating about 2 months, living together. We moved in together. That must have been in June, May, June. We moved in together, and my family still had no idea. I just told them, "Oh yeah, I'm moving in with a coworker of mine. We both want to be closer to work," and we found a house in the middle of Provo, Utah. So we moved in together. And for the longest time, it just felt like I was keeping a secret, which I was. I was keeping a secret. I didn't want my family to know. I wasn't ready for my family to know because I was dealing with all of these emotions about, oh my gosh, I'm gay. Like, what does that even mean for me? What does that mean for my eternal salvation? Was one of the big questions. So I didn't want anybody to know. Kenna knew. That's what mattered. We were happy together. We were living together. She was my girlfriend, and I was just happy to be in a relationship with somebody who I really cared about, and we lived together, and that was a great thing. It was really awkward, actually, one time. Obviously, we slept in the same bed. Obviously. And it was this little two bedroom, 1-bathroom house. And I remember my parents were like, "Oh, well, we want to come see your space." And I was like, "Cool. Yeah, come on over." So like they came over, nobody knew. They came over, and my bedroom, the one that was supposed to be my bedroom, just had like a desk in it and like a shelf, because I slept with my girlfriend at the time. And it was really awkward having them come over and be like, oh, like you don't have a bed? And I was like, oh no, like I've just been sleeping on the couch. That was not true. It was a lie. And I didn't enjoy the lying. Lies do not sit well with me. They make me feel very, very queasy and uncomfortable. I'm a horrible liar when it's something that's important. I can like fib a little bit, like, like if I gotta keep a secret or something, like I can lie, like if somebody's getting proposed to and I can't say anything, I'm really good at making stuff up. But if it's something that's like important and something that matters, I am really bad at lying about things. So that was an awkward thing. And maybe they like had their suspicions at the time. If they did, they didn't say anything, my family. But yeah, I remember them coming over and I just was like, yeah, I sleep on the couch. And, I'll get a bed one day. And my mom was like, oh, do you need a bed from? And I was like, oh, like, yeah, maybe. It was just kind of awkward. And I just remember it was like a month where Kenna never made me feel guilty about not being open with my family, which I really appreciated. But even though she didn't make me feel guilty, I felt guilty. I felt bad because she was this really awesome person who I really cared about. And it seemed not fair to keep that a secret from other people that I really cared about, It seemed not right to hide that because everything seemed so natural and normal and good and positive about that relationship. There was nothing toxic. There was nothing that I was like, oh man, like this is not a good idea. This is going to end really poorly. Like that, there was nothing. There was no indicator that, that things were not going to be anything but, just two happy people living together and building, a relationship. And so it seemed unfair to keep that a secret from everybody. And I remember it got to a point, and this was after I think we had exchanged I love yous, which happened after we moved into the new place. It was then that I was like, yeah, this is a person that, this is a person that I love. And it doesn't seem fair. It's not fair to her to keep that a secret. And I decided I was going to tell my family. And I was really scared. I was really, really scared. Lots of fear associated with coming out, obviously. I was never afraid that they were going to hate me or disown me or tell me that I was worthless or that I was disgusting. They're not like that. My family's not like that. My parents aren't like that. I knew that they would still love me, but I knew that this was something that was really going to hurt them. My parents specifically. I wasn't sure how my siblings were going to react. I really was not sure on that one, but I knew that for my parents, it was going to be surprising and disappointing and painful. And I really do not like disappointing my parents. I really don't like disappointing anybody, but specifically my parents, because I'm so grateful to them for everything that they've done for me throughout my entire life. My parents are fantastic, incredible people. And they always have been. They've always been there for me. They've always supported me. They've always told me that I can accomplish whatever I set my mind to. They've always been there to encourage me and support me in athletics, in education. They push me to be a better version of myself. They're as far as parents go, I mean, they pretty much take home the gold medal. And as I say this now, with me being in a much better space than I was a year and a half ago, I said a lot of things when I was hurting. I said a lot of things that I really regret. There was a time where I was not particularly kind to my mom specifically. And she does not deserve that. Sorry, kind of getting emotional here. My parents are fabulous people. I very much look up to who they are. And so this idea of coming out to them as their oldest daughter, I'm the second oldest in the family. And I was, a golden child, so to speak, with, I got the good grades and I did my homework and I graduated college and I was a collegiate athlete and I was going to church and I was teaching gospel doctrine and I served a mission and I was doing everything right. And I knew that dropping this bomb on them of I'm gay and I'm in a relationship with a woman was going to be really, really difficult for them. And that is what scared me, was making everybody uncomfortable, including myself, and opening up this, what felt like a can of worms, because I didn't know how they were going to respond, but I knew that it wasn't going to be positive. Side note here, if you were in a place where you're not sure if you should come out, if you know that, the people who are closest to you, family members, if you have family members that are homophobic, who have expressed really homophobic things and who are like not nice people, maybe don't come out to them first. Like I said, I am very fortunate in the family that I was blessed with. I knew that my parents weren't going to disown me or hate me, but I knew that it was something that was going to be hard. I knew that we were still going to be able to talk and have a relationship. If you think that you're going to be disowned or kicked out of the house or whatever, tread lightly. Find people who can be a support system for you, because that's a really scary thing. Okay. Back to the story. So I made the decision that I was going to tell my parents. I didn't want to tell my dad in person because I did not know what his reaction would be, and I didn't want to find out what his reaction would be. I did not want to be there when he found out that I was gay, because that was scary for me. So I went to my parents' house at a time when I knew it was just going to be my mom and like maybe my little sister, who happened to be there also. They were ready. They were getting ready. I timed it. I timed it so that there couldn't be any kinds of like interventions or like stop Kate from being gay parties or anything like that. My whole family, except for me, because I had to work, they were going to Bear Lake for a week. Everybody except for me. And they were leaving, I think, the next day. And so I went to my parents' house. My mom was home. My dad wasn't. It was my mom and my little sister. And it would be interesting to talk to them about what they remember or how they remember this going down. But I remember walking in and I was already emotional because I didn't know what to expect. I just knew that I couldn't keep this secret anymore. I couldn't do it. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I did not like it. It made me uncomfortable. The secrecy made me uncomfortable. The lying made me uncomfortable. I do not think that lying is a good thing. And I think that that is indicated by how like uneasy it makes me feel. So I remember I just sat down and I was like, I needed to tell you guys something. And it was my mom and my little sister. And I said, Kenna isn't just my roommate. She's my girlfriend, and we've been dating for a couple months. And I just wanted you to know. And of course, at this point, I was crying. I'm crying. My mom was crying. My little sister was crying. I remember my little sister came over and gave me a hug and said that she loved me. And my mom gave me a hug also. I was like sobbing. I mean, talk about an emotional wreck. I was a disaster. And as soon as I could get words out, I just remember saying, I said, I'm not ready to answer questions right now. I can't answer any questions. I just wanted to tell you so that you guys know kind of what's going on. I want you to know what the situation is. And then I left. And as far as I know, my mom told my dad, and my dad talked to my brothers about it. I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. And my siblings since then have never batted an eye about it. My brothers especially were nothing but kind and understanding and supportive to the extent that I guess I needed support. My little sister had a harder time. I think I mentioned that in one of my podcast episodes, that she wrote me a letter that did not make me feel really great. But we're on much better terms now. I remember leaving the house and feeling a handful of emotions. Relief that it was finally out there, this fact that I was in a relationship with a woman. It was finally something that I didn't have to just hide anymore from my family. And this overwhelming sense of, I guess, guilt. I don't know if guilt is the right word. I felt so sad seeing my mom cry like that because of me, right? It was because of me and because of who I was that she was feeling this hurt and sorrow. And so I felt really guilty for making her feel those emotions. And that lasted for a long time. And it was my dad and I never had a conversation about me being gay. He wrote me a letter, which I think I don't remember if I talked about that. He wrote me a letter about how he felt like I was lost. And there's a lot more on that, but I'm not ready to dive into that with you guys yet. So maybe at some point in the future. We've never had a conversation about me being gay. And it wasn't until very recently that he actually asked me about my current girlfriend, which was shocking to me. I didn't even know what to say. I didn't have any words. But for the next few months, I didn't know, because I was still not completely confident in my sexuality. I was still in a phase where, like, I knew that I had these feelings and I knew that I had this attraction to this woman, but I still felt like I couldn't be gay. Like, I was gay and I was in this relationship, but there was a part of me that was like, you can't be doing this. This is wrong. This is not all right. And I was still trying to go to church at the time. And my bishop of my congregation, my ward, was so kind and so nice. Bishop Cherry and his wife, they were the sweetest people. And I remember going into his office and talking to him and just being like, hey, listen, this is my situation. I don't expect it to change. I'm in a very happy relationship, but I love church and I want to be here and I want to keep coming in. He was so, oh my gosh, he was so calm and comforting. It was not what I expected. And he just said, ultimately he said, I don't have all of the answers, but I want you to know that we want you to be here. And that meant the world to me because I didn't know, if I could keep going to church. I didn't know if it was a place that I would feel welcome or if I would feel comfortable, being at church. And he was so, oh my gosh, he was so thoughtful and kind, and he would reach out to me and he would come say hi and come visit. And he made me feel so comforted is, I think, the word that I want to use. He made me feel like everything was going to be okay. Sorry that I'm crying and being emotional. I just didn't expect him to react the way that he did, and so I was very grateful. I was very, very grateful that was his reaction. And the months following that, after coming out, were not easy. Maybe we'll dive into that in another episode because there's a lot of conversations that I had with my mom specifically that I don't know that I'll go into a lot of detail about, but there were a lot of things that she would say that really would make me think a lot about religion and God and my standing with God and how he viewed me. There was a lot of conversations that we had. Not all of them were very pleasant. Most of them ended with me in tears and crying because it felt like not only did I have this internal struggle that I was dealing with, me versus me, right? Religious, super faithful me versus gay me, but religious, super faithful me had teammates. And those people were my mom and my dad and my little sister at the time. And so it felt like I was being kind of ganged up on, like the homosexual part of me. It was me versus myself plus, 3 other people who were trying to tell me that, how could you be gay? What about our eternal family? And what about what happens after death, and homosexuality is a sin. And so I felt like I was fighting on multiple fronts, and it was exhausting. And my mental health was not great. Kenna was wonderful through the whole process. And she was always there to let me vent and talk to her about things. And she was always really, really supportive, which then also, in a sense, made me feel worse because I had 2 incredible groups of people in my life. I had Kenna and her family who were warm and welcome and kind and hilarious. And we spent so much time with her family and I loved that. And at the same time, I had my family who I loved and adored, and my family had always been the kind of people, my parents were always the kinds of people that we had an open door policy at the house. Everybody was welcome. It didn't matter where you came from. It didn't matter if your family life sucked, if you were having a hard time. Like, everybody was always welcome in my family growing up. The rule was you don't have to knock. You just come in the side door and you say hello and you give everybody a hug before you leave. That was the rule. And so it was so hard for me to know that was my family. That was how I grew up. And then all of a sudden, I was dating this girl, and that side of my parents vanished. Everybody's welcome, everybody's invited. It ended where my relationship with Kenna started. That's how it felt. It was uncomfortable. Kenna and I went to my parents' house on multiple occasions, and it was not fun. It was uncomfortable multiple times, every time. It was awkward and strange, and nobody knew how to act. And I felt bad because I knew that my family was awesome and my parents were great people, but they just could not get past this awkward barrier of, well, we're not really happy about this, but here we are. And their discomfort was so evident whenever Kenna was around. And I still to this day feel so bad about that. And I don't think anybody deserves to be treated like an outcast. And that was the attitude towards Kenna, I think. And it caused a lot of conflict because I felt like I had to choose sides. I had to choose between spending time with my family without Kenna or spending time with Kenna and her family where we were both involved and included and supported. And I just kept having to pick teams. And it was, oh my gosh, it was a mess for so long. But we'll dive into that in the next podcast episode. If you are coming out to your family, if that's something that you're maybe scared to do, remember that there's no pressure. There's no timeline. Everybody's timeline is their own. You don't have to jump off this cliff, so to speak, into nothingness or into uncertainty if you're not sure how people are going to react. Like I said, I had a pretty good idea of what the response was going to be from my family. If you're unsure or if you're worried that you're going to be disowned or kicked out of, maybe you're living at home with your parents and you're worried that you're going to get kicked out for being gay, take your time. Don't just jump to make these decisions because you feel like you have to. You don't have to. I would hope that, that everybody's parents would be understanding and supportive, but I know that that's not the case. And everybody's situation is so different. I feel like more and more we're in a time when kids can come out and it's not a big deal. But I know that especially coming from like religious homes or religious backgrounds, that's a really hard thing sometimes. Sometimes the religion gets in the way of love and kindness, which is not what it's supposed to do. So take your time. Don't rush it. Find people who will be supportive. Start paying attention to what your friends say or your coworkers. Find people who have more of an affirming attitude when it comes to homosexuality, LGBTQ, queerness. Find those people. Build relationships with those people. And they can be your support system. They're out there. There are people that are out there who are not gay, but who understand, the difficulty of coming out and being different. And they're willing to support people because they care, and I can't explain that. There are really good people in the world who just care about other people. You should be one of those people. I try to be one of those people, takes effort, takes time, but the world is a better place when we try to help other people feel a little less alone or a little less isolated. So be that person and look for those people. If you are getting ready to come out, if you feel like it's time, find people who are going to support you and love you and be there for you. I hope you can find them. And if you can't find them in your immediate circle, start online, TikTok, dating apps. There are dating apps that let you connect with other queer people just as friends. Maybe that's a good place to start. Shoot me a message. I got plenty of really great affirming human beings in my life. I'll be that for you if you need it. So thanks for listening. Again, big shout out to my Patreon people for making this whole podcast a possibility. I appreciate you guys listening. I know time is valuable, so I appreciate you taking the time to hear my story, and I hope that it's been helpful and useful and eye-opening. Maybe it'll provoke some thoughts for you. So I will catch you in the next episode. Thanks, guys.